Okay, so tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in the disability community.
So, howdy, I'm Meryl Evans. I have brown curly hair and I'm wearing a black shirt that says progress over perfection with the accessibility icon in the O of over. So, you could say I was born into it. Seriously, though, I was born hearing free or in medical terms, profoundly deaf. I've always had an interest in accessibility and in disability advocacy. From time to time, I would educate or push for change, but the game changer came in 2018. A colleague encouraged me to make video. As a digital marketer, I knew the value of video, but I was realistic. Being born deaf came with an accent. I didn't know how people would respond to it. Finally, I made a 20-second video asking one question. That's it. And wow, the response was tremendous. That was the start of my making many videos. At this point, I was not yet vocal about disability and accessibility advocacy. I was focused on making videos and learning how to caption them. The videos were mostly about marketing to share my expertise. Of course, the ultimate goal was to land new clients. And working on the videos, I started playing with caption and captioning apps. At least the few that were available at the time before the pandemic, and compelled me to start writing and making videos about why high quality captions matter. So this led to an invitation to speak at an accessibility conference in 2019. That's where I found the spark that ignited my passion for accessibility in the community. I knew I wanted to be more involved in accessibility, but I wasn't sure how. So after the conference, I went home to continue doing what I was doing. How did I move from captioning accessibility to accessibility for everyone? I've always cared about equal access for everyone in all aspects of life. I wanted to do more than caption. That's when I studied and passed the accessibility certification exam. I wanted to show that I knew more about disability and accessibility beyond my own and caption.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to ask. Like, what sorts of things are you doing in the disability community? I understand that you're involved in disability advocacy and are an accessibility consultant. And among other things, you're a speaker. So it's a whole host of things. So if you could talk about that a little bit.
Sure. As you said, yes, I am a speaker and a trainer. I have spoken and trained many companies on a variety of topics around disability and accessibility. As for being an accessibility consultant, I'm a Jane of all trades. I've done research, written reports, worked with users to get their feedback, advised leaders on how to make progress with their accessibility efforts, and including people with disabilities into their companies. I've trained people on how to make their content accessible. I'm also on 3 nonprofit boards. One is an organization serving people with intellectual developmental disabilities, one that focuses on accessibility education, and one is my local chamber of commerce that builds community leaders. I've been working with them to help their program be more inclusive and accessible.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. So my next question here is, how do you make sure that, things are accessible for people with disabilities and that the needs of people with disabilities, are met? What sorts of things are you doing to make that happen? What are you doing essentially?
Yes, a lot of the disability advocacy I do through my writing and social media interaction. One of the most common challenges I find is that the community will write about problems. In some cases, they may offer solutions, but these are all in their own post. though not encouraging action. I was almost guilty of this recently. A lot of us were impressed with Justina Miles' English performance at the big halftime game show, but her performance was only available online and the captions were almost non-existent. A lot of people praised her for her performance, but not many thought about the problem. They were all catching the performance a day, 2 or 3 after it happened. I was lucky that I happened to find out about it and where to watch it online. I shared that on social media. A lot of people didn't catch that because I can only reach so many people. The day after the game, I talked about this. Then I realized talking about the solution was not going to affect change. So I wrote another post with 2 action items, encouraging people to reach out to 2 companies. I also continued to see if I could find contact in the business and reached out to several. So hopefully something happened. Sometimes you make change and sometimes you don't. Raising awareness is better than nothing. I encourage people to take action that goes beyond writing about it on their social media or blog. That's why I say progress over perfection a lot. You have to sometimes start small.
Yeah, yeah. So like my next question here is like, what have you learned from doing this kind of work? You know, how does that create an impact not just on yourself as a deaf person, but like what kind of impact does it have on the disability community?
As I just said, the smaller changes can make a big difference. If I can change one person's mind or encourage them to make progress with their accessibility efforts, then that's a win. One of my favorite stories is when Thomas Logan of Equal Entry asked me to track 2 accessibility problems on social media. What happened was we embedded posts from the social network on our website. It caused an accessibility fail. That's because one of the links in the embedded post did not have enough contrast. And then there was another more complicated problem. These were 2 problems out of our control. This was in the hands of the company behind the social network. So I reached out to them and tracked it for months. I kept checking in with them. Then one day they reported they fixed both problems. The small thing I did that Thomas Logan and our colleagues did affected many, many websites where people were embedding content from the social network. They all had one thing, at least one thing that was not accessible until we fixed the problem. So it made everybody's website with the embedded social post more accessible.
Yeah. Lastly, how can we create an inclusive and welcoming world for people with disabilities? Because you know there's a lot of stigma around disability and ableism. So what can we do? What can we do collectively to sort of really tackle that head on?
A big part of that is to keep educating folks. People fear what they don't know. They don't understand it, or they have wrong assumptions, or maybe they have one bad experience with one person and let that cloud the view of everyone else. I'm so grateful to all the people with disabilities who share their lived experiences and educate anyone who will listen about disability and accessibility. I can only reach a tiny portion of the world, but when you put all of it together, we can reach so many more people. I also believe we need the education to start in grade school and be covered in colleges and corporations. It truly takes a village.
It really does.